Okay, let me start out this shop update by introducing you to a new member of our shop family. I went out and I got a Hypertherm Power Max 45. And here it is. Over here, I've set it on this little support cart that I made for my welding bench. The Hypertherm has a long lead on it, a long torch lead, so I can leave it over here and still be able to do all the cutting that I need to do over at the bench. So, but here it is, Hypertherm 45. I've always kind of gravitated towards a Hypertherm. I've been looking at plasma torches, plasma cutters for probably a year or more, and I can't really believe how small they have actually gotten in the last year. It's amazing how much technology they've got into these machines. So there is a machine sitting on the support table, and the lead and ground wire are coming over here. And again, the lead is very long on this. We used it, when I say we, my grandson and I used it yesterday just to try and check it out. I had used the plasma cutter before at work to cut out a bunch of piping on a job, and so I was kind of a little bit familiar with them, but it takes some getting used to. They're very easy to use, but it takes some getting used to if you're used to cutting with a conventional torch. You just got to kind of readjust yourself to using a plasma cutter. But anyway, so I just kind of wanted to show that to you as part of the introduction into it. In my last shop update, I kind of showed you at the end of that shop update a clip of the vise bench that I was, or vise stand, let's call it, that I was going to be building for it, and let's jump into that right now. Okay, we got to find a flat spot in the floor, but I mean, I don't think it will go anywhere.
No, I think it's good.
If worst comes to worst, it does start to move, I can always pour concrete in the bottom of it.
No, it's not. That's fine. The center of it's centered, so if you're pulling on something, pushing on something, you're going to be pushing down. You're not, you know what I mean? It's great.
Okay, so a couple of shop updates ago, I told you about a auction I went to. Well, when I was at that auction, I ran into some people. Actually, I gave them some old welding rod that was in that rod oven as scrap material because they were scrapping a bunch of stuff over there. And he said to me, why I have some, he knew that I got those taper drill bits, and he said to me, You know, I was at an auction a couple of months ago and got a bunch of those tapered drill bits. Why don't you come over to my shop and take a look at them? So I went over to his shop, and they had a box, and I'll show you the box in a minute, but these are two of the things that were in it. There were very few tapered drill bits, but there was a lot of end mills and stuff like that. So these are two roughing end mills that were in it, and let me shut you off and I'll take you over and show you some other stuff that was in that box. Okay, so this is the tapered drill bits that were in the box, and a couple of them are fairly new. I don't think they've ever been used. So tapered drill bits, regular straight drill bits here and there. I just laid this stuff out because some of it I'm going to keep, some of it I'll probably list on eBay. Reamers, there was long shank reamers, long shank dies, more of the reamers, just regular dies over there. There's carbide inserts, center drills, I don't even remember what this was, and see if I can get it apart one-handed here. Sorry guys, can't really set you down because the camera's on a gimbal and a little beveling tool. Let me shut you off and I'll take you over and show you the rest of it. So this is the box that it came in. In the bottom of the box were these things, and I'm not really sure what they are. They look like jaws for something, but I have no idea what they are for. But there are more larger end mills and splitting saws. But that all came in that box. There was a whole bunch of stuff in there, just a whole bunch of stuff. Got it for a very reasonable price too. You know, I shot those clips that I just showed you of that stuff that I got from the place is called Pryshall Brothers. They actually sell tires, like tractor tire. Well, they sell all sorts of tires, but they're noted for truck and tractor tires, heavy equipment tires, like on loaders and stuff like that. But I forgot to show you these that was included in that haul that came in that box. This one drill bit, it's like a 2-inch drill bit, but it's like got a like on a boring bar type of arrangement. Couple of other long drill bits. But all of this stuff came in there. I'm over here against the back wall of my shop, and what I did is move this rod oven over here and turned it on. I took the rod that I have. Nice. I've taken the rod that I have out of the storage places in the bottom of the welding table and put it in this, and I've turned this oven on very low. It's well, the lowest it goes is 100, so it's probably between 100 and 150. I just want to heat that rod that I put up in there and get it up to temperature where it dehumidifies it or it gets the moisture out of it. And then I'll turn it off and just keep it in there. And that oven should be with it turned off. Keep it in there with it turned off. And the oven should control the moisture content from getting into that rod without the oven being on. But I just wanted to show that to you. One of the things that I had said originally regarding this vise and this stand before I welded it together, I told you that I was probably going to clean it up and do it. So I didn't do that. All I did was clean up the top of the rim and around the flange where I was going to weld it. I had kind of taken a wire wheel to some of this vise before I mounted it on there, but I didn't clean any of it up. What I think I'm going to do, that rim is kind of destroyed. It's got melted rubber on it, and I'm not really going to clean it up that well. What I plan on doing is just cleaning it up, getting any of the loose residue off of it, and then just painting it. Same way with that spool piece, that flange spool piece, I'll do that. Now, I'll probably just take a wire wheel to the vise and paint it some color, some appropriate color. I'm not sure what the original color of the vise was. For some reason, I have a belief that after seeing some of them on the internet restored, that it was a greenish color. Probably not that green that you see there, but a greenish color. In doing the wire wheel thing, and you might be able to see it, there's some indication that there was a reddish orange on the vise at one point in time. I think you can see it there too. But I'm not really sure of the original color. That reddish orange almost appears to be way under everything else, so I'm not really sure. So I'll find an appropriate color, whether it's trying to match the original color or just some color that I prefer. I'm not really sure, but that's what I'm going to do. Again, it's a work vise. It's a vise to be used to do things with, to clamp things with, to maybe weld in it or whatever, but it's going to be used for work. It's not for authenticity or to be restored is a semi rare vise used for work. Okay, I just took a batch of drill bits out of here, dried them off, rinsed them off, dried them off. I'll take them over to buff them. But I told you that the last thing I was going to show you was this drill bit. This is the worst condition. So here it goes into the bath, and I'll put some other ones in there with it, just so that there's not a lot of wasted space in there. Okay, I'll seal it up, bring you back tomorrow afternoon. Okay, here we are over to the Evapo-Rust bucket. I've got that big drill bit in there that I showed you the other day going into it. Now what happened is usually I leave them in there for exactly a day. As you saw from the other video or the other clip, I put that big drill bit in here with some other drill bits. Yesterday afternoon I started taking them out, these small drill bits, and something came up and I got taken off and had to do something else, and I left that big drill bit in here. So it's the next morning, so it's actually been in the Evapo-Rust for a day and a half. Now I haven't seen it, so you're going to see it for the first time as I do. And there it is. Let me put it in a bucket, take it over, rinse it off with water, and what I'll do is take it over to the buffing wheel and buff it off too. Gotta dry my hands off so that I can turn the camera off. But I'll bring you back as I do it. Okay, there it is, rinsed off with water. Let me take it over to the wire wheel and just run it through that, and I'll bring you back and show it to you. Okay, here you go. This is after the wire wheel. So what I'll do is put a clip in here of the before shot. And here it is again after I put it in the Evapor-Rust and just did it on the wire wheel. Okay, I just wanted to show you where I went with that vise as far as paint goes in the stand. Now, I cleaned the stand up a little bit. I really didn't go overboard on it. You know what I mean? It's the friggin' stand. You know, who gives a shit if it's got scale and stuff underneath that paint? You know, people are probably going to be stepping on it or bracing their foot up against it. It doesn't really matter. I just wanted to get it painted so that it looked uniform to it. But anyways, what I did is I went with red. I might have mentioned this in another clip, but I went with red because I kind of found a reddish color as it looked like the base coat of paint on the vise from the original paint job. What I did is took a wire wheel and cleaned it off with that and found that red paint. Now, it wasn't like this. And again, I'm annoyed with that paint, and I'll bring you back to that issue with the paint. But when the color that I kind of found underneath it was that reddish, let's not call it a burgundy, but you know what that darker, slightly less gloss red paint that old styles things were painted. The only thing that I can relate it to is they used to make a pipe dope out of red lead and linseed oil, and it had a reddish color, but it was a dark reddish color, not this kind of like fire engine red thing. But you know, again, it's a vise that's going to be used. I just kind of wanted to match the original type of color scheme for the vise, which was red. Didn't paint the let's call it the way, or the table that the vise goes in and out on. I wanted to leave that, and even though that there is no actual jaws, the jaw is part of the casting on this thing, I kind of taped it off so that I could give the kind of the impression of there being jaws on the vise. But that's the way I went. The handle, I'm going to get rid of that handle. It's just a matter of what I want to use in place of it. You know, I was just having a discussion with my grandson about this thing, about, you know, I'd like to get a bar that's closer to being the right size. This thing is kind of small for the hole that's in there. A lot of play in it. But it would be nice to kind of come up with a themed ends of it, instead of just the balls on the end of it. Have something like, I don't know, valves or rod journals on the end of it, or something. Engine rod journals, engine valves. There it is. Just kind of want to show it to you. You know, human nature is a funny thing. This is my original camera, GoPro Hero. It's not a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. It's just the original GoPro Hero. And I kind of use that for my go-to camera when I want to set it up on the welding table and shoot welding shots and stuff like that, because I really don't care about it. maybe you could see if I can get it in the light right. There's like spots on the cover of it where welding splatter has gone up and burned the plastic. What happened is the mount, and let me show you one. This little adapter thing that you use to screw into like tripods or stands or whatever you're using broke off. The tines broke on the thing. And again, I like this camera because it's kind of my go-to camera where I really don't care about it, but yet I'm hesitant to go out and buy another camera. I really can't use it because the things are broke. You know, I can't set it up in a tripod. You can't hold it still. It doesn't have that still motion equalizing system built into it like the newer style GoPros do, or my gimbal does. So you really can't do it handheld, but it's my go-to camera. So what I think I'm going to do is I have a couple of these cases that came with my camera, and they have a mount on it. What I'm saying, that it came with the camera that I'm shooting with right now. There's a waterproof like case. So what I think I'm going to do is I took this camera over to the bench grinder, ground off the bottom where those they had been, and I'm going to go get one of them cases out and see if I can cut the bottom off and just glue it onto there so that I can keep my camera. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to go out and buy a new camera, but you know, again, human nature is funny. I really don't care about the camera. You know, I put it in hazardous places where I'm welding and stuff, and painting and all sorts of places like that. But yet again, I don't want to get rid of it. You know, I want to keep it and fix it so that I can use it as my go-to camera. So the first time that I used the vise after I got it painted, I put that GoPro case in the vise and cut it off with a cutoff wheel. And here's the old Hero with the new thing glued onto the bottom of it. Mount. Hopefully it'll last. Again, human nature's funny. Probably about 6 or 8 months ago, I did this thing. I was painting something, and I told you that I like this Krylon paint. Now, this is primer. This is an old can. This is the new can. I gotta tell you, it's half again is more expensive, the new stuff they came out with. The nozzle sucks. It very hard to press it down. Not very hard, but hard when you're spraying a lot. It becomes fatiguing actually on your index finger. The thing is like water. It runs terrible. It comes out as soupy as water. This stuff was covered good. The old stuff, it covered good. You had to know how to spray it without getting runs. But this stuff, it says no runs, no drips, no errors. Bullshit. It's like water. When I sprayed this is the first spray that I made, and as you can see, there's runs. Because it's like water. Yeah, you could get no runs, but you would have to go like that. I really don't like it. The other thing is, I think the nozzle, the draw tube in it is bad because there's stuff left in the bottom of this that I can't get out. This one, you can get it out totally. Kryline, you screwed up big time. I don't know whether this is primer again. It's only primer, so I'm not sure. Maybe I got a bad can. Maybe their paint is different. I'll let you know. Okay, let me get back onto the paint again. What I did is I went over, I had discussed this before with you, and I told you that the primer that I got was like water. I went over, I bought another can of primer, and I had this gloss. What is it called? It's called classic gray gloss. I had that and started painting the inside of the drill bit bin with that. So I wanted to get another can of it to finish it up because I wasn't able to finish it up with what I had. So I bought this. Now, here again, it was the inside of the trays, and I really didn't care. You really couldn't get in there to get good coverage in there. I was just kind of shooting over the thing to kind of lighten up the inside, cover up some of that rust and stuff like that. Didn't tear the thing apart to clean the rust up. I just covered it up. I got this other can of primer, and I got to tell you, it seemed thicker than the original one that I got. So I was kind of thinking, okay, it's just was just a bad can of primer that I got, and that was all the problem was. Well, that's not the case. I got the red. I just showed you the vise. I got the red paint, and I've got this other can of that classic gloss gray to match that, to finish up what the inside of that inside of the drill bit cabinet. Well, two things. First of all, the paint is very inconsistent. You can spray something this red, you can spray it and then stop spraying, wait for it to dry to add another coat, come back and start spraying again, and you get like this crinkly textured finish because the nozzle isn't right or something. Then you think, now what am I going to do? I'm going to have to get another paint. Well, you come back to it again, and then it shoots fine again. So it's very inconsistent. It's very inconsistent in the way it applies the thickness of the paint to begin with. Even though you shake the can, you get that ball rattling, and you get good shaking into it, and it doesn't matter. One time it'll be blotchy, and then the next time it'll be too thin. And I had that problem with the thinness on this thing, and it kind of ran down into itself. But the vise is so beat up and well used that you can't really see the runs in it, but you can see it over here. And if you, let me see if you can see it. If you look right up in here, there's a run, and it shows up on a smooth finish or a smooth sheet, a smooth panel. Those runs show up. I'm really not happy with this paint, Kryline. Now, again, I had told you before, I had made another video about this and told you that I had switched to this Krylon, these original, because I was having problems with Rust-Oleum. Not the paint, it was the spray nozzle. Every time that I use a rattle can, when I'm done using it, I turn the can upside down and clean out the nozzle, spray out the residue that's in the nozzle and the draw tube. Just get it out of there so that the thing is clean. Even though I did it with Rust-Oleum, I would go back and days, weeks, a month later, go to use the remainder of the can, and the nozzle wouldn't work. And here I am with half a can of paint, and I couldn't get the nozzle clean. I actually took one of the nozzles out and tried to soak it in lacquer thinner, and it still didn't work. So what I was ending up with is had to go out and get more paint because I had half a can that I couldn't use. So that's kind of the reason why I switched to this Krylon to begin with. Now, what I'm thinking is I'm probably going to go back. Maybe Rust-Oleum has resolved that issue with their nozzles, and I can go back to that, but I'm not going to go back to it when I've got part of this thing painted in one. I've ran into experiences with rattle can paint where you try to mix paints and you get a crinkling effect. Maybe one's an enamel and one is kind of like a lacquer-based paint, and it reacts to each other. So probably what I'm going to have to do is finish this thing with Krylon, even though I don't want to, I don't like it. I'll have to finish it with it so that I don't mix and match those paints, and then maybe I'll try Rust-Oleum on a new project. But I'll let you know.